early days in Austin, the late nights at the coffee shop and the rec center, all of that. I'm just curious, how formative were those years in your career? What do you remember about, all those interactions you've had with him, when you were just getting started?
Yeah, very fond memories. To use the word that you said, very formative for me. Obviously, I owe so much credit to Q, all the knowledge he gave me on the floor, but also off the floor. I mean, a guy that's had a stellar career as a coach, as a player, multiple different levels, leagues. He just poured into me. He didn't owe that to me. Countless hours at his house, different restaurants, talking hoops, talking player development, talking about, leadership in the basketball professional field. And then obviously getting the opportunity outside of just in the D League, but spending time here in Atlanta and just the care he put around me. He gave me, front row seat, to great education. He's one of the most beautiful basketball minds I've ever been around. I owe a lot to him, and just to have that friendship over the years, to have his support, to obviously we compete against each other, multiple times throughout the year, but he's always been one that's checked on me, seeing how I'm doing. Those were those formative years from Austin, Atlanta, and well beyond. So I owe a lot to Q.
What's the latest with Ja? Didn't see him in the shoot around this morning. Is there any update there?
Yeah, we kept him back on this trip. It's a brief trip, and we just wanted him to invest a little bit more, with the treatment on his back. But we'll have a better idea once we see him tomorrow.
Taylor, Marcus Smart obviously was doubtful coming in. Questionable coming into tonight. What's the latest with him?
Yeah, had a good shoot around. He's going to go through final testing before, just that shoulder comfort. But we're hopeful that he can play tonight. But he'll do the final test and we'll have a better feel right around game time.
Chicago is honoring Derrick Rose in 2 weeks. I was just wondering if you could speak to the influence he had on the team last year and kind of the veteran mentorship he provided in that last stage of his career.
Yeah, Derrick was phenomenal with our group. I mean, I don't probably have enough time to talk about how much of an impact he had, not just on his teammates, but the coaching staff, the organization. Obviously, this is an OG. The guys would talk about. I mean, the amount of respect they had for him just from afar. A lot of these guys grew up watching him, and he came with the mindset of helping the team. Great dialogues with him as before he ended up signing with us, and he understood that role that he was going to come in. Knew that he wanted to still get out there and contribute, as much as possible with his teammates, but set a tone with his work ethic. Even when he was out of the rotation or he was working his way back, from an injury, he just approached the day just with so much care and love. I mean, he poured so much into the game of basketball. I always reference the newspaper, pages that he took out, when he announced his retirement and talked about how much the game of basketball gave to him, and how thankful he was. And then that's what I got to see, in the 1 year that we were together, and the amount of conversations we had talking about basketball, but also talking about life and this journey that we're all on. You rewind and think about when he first came in the league and how dominant he was, an MVP, and one of the bright stars of our game for many, many years. And then I got to see him in his last season, and just the growth that he displayed as a player, as a leader. These guys felt his care and his love, and him pouring into them, and they continue to still have great relationships with him. He's still in Memphis with his family. He's rooted himself there. The relationships still go beyond basketball, which is the most impressive thing. And I think we were in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and just hearing about the celebration they're going to have, I can only imagine the uproar and the welcome and the ovation that he's going to get, because he gave so much to that great city and that team, and so many others that we should all be thankful for the time spent with Derrick.
Coach, with Atlanta being so long, 2, 3, and 4, and it's going to be very switchable, how important is it tonight to be very much not playing in crowd spaces, playing with pace, and make sure the spacing is just right, make sure the movements are just right tonight, to make sure you don't get stuck with that Atlanta length, start stopping your offense?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge priority. I think they're one of the best paint defenses in the league. A lot of personnel that are long, interchangeable, a lot of switching. You obviously know what Capella, is capable of, around the rim with blocking shots and also securing rebounds, and then obviously his offensive rebounding too. But specifically for our offense, they threw Nance in there last game, and his switchability, his physicality, it can dictate, offenses a lot. So we have to maintain our movement. Our pace has to be a factor. When we do get into ball screens, we have to have great movement off of that, and just great initial ball movement to create the next advantage. So we can't get stagnant against that length, knowing that we still got to get a piece of the paint, and then when they take that away, or we find on our outlets at the 3-point line, and we got to keep our engine running against a pretty good defense.
Hey, Coach, a question about the similarity between the Hawks and the Grizzlies. Both teams have these very gifted, talented point guards, but you guys are running pick and rolls at the lowest frequency of any team in the league, and then the Hawks have Trae Young at the lowest percentage of his on-ball share. But you're seeing this increase in potential assists, pace, all these different things. So I'm curious on how you found the balance between playing through a very gifted playmaker and obviously a talented scorer, but still also, being able to run this offense without him being on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of dialogue in the summer about just how we can find more competitive advantages, lean into our strengths of our dynamic, guard ability, our bigs that are pretty mobile. Our pace has always been, key to our success. We've also been very predictable, in our pick and roll package. So how can we have that fine balance of, when to put John in pick and rolls, when to put Dez in pick and rolls, Marcus in the pick and rolls. You see Sky to get more opportunity as well. We got Zach Edey in the fold, a guy that can be a big time threat, with a screen setting BC, a dynamic pick and roll player. So it all spells we should just continue to run that. But I think our collective movement of 5 guys, not just 2 guys, and then seeing what those other 3 guys do has been something that we try to lean into, in the off season, the start of the year. And we're trying to still create, more quality shots. We always struggle with that in the past. More shots at the rim, more catch and shoot threes. So I think our movement has allowed us to do that, without the use of pick and roll. But when we do use the pick and roll, how do we still have that movement pattern woven into that? So it's still, a learning opportunity for us to see, how much we got to lean into the pick and roll or off-ball screens for that matter. But I love our pace and our initial just collective 5-man movement off a pass cut, screen away, drive. We're seeing a lot of good returns right now.
Taylor, exactly 10 years ago, you were on the staff here, that 60-win Hawks team. Obviously, they play a lot when you look at the numbers, balance, depth, top 10 efficiency in both offense and defense. Do you see any comparisons to what you guys are doing this year versus what that team did 10 years ago? Different personnel, obviously, but just sort of the numbers are starting to line up a little bit.
Yeah, hard to compare. Obviously, great time here in Atlanta for 5 years, and especially that very special season. But we definitely did things differently, and very thankful for that coaching staff and those players. That was a special season. But at the end of the day, regardless of your personnel, your systems, being top 10 offense, top 10 defense is what you're striving for. Heck, top 5 in both as well. So, haven't made it as many comparisons there. I think we're doing a lot of different things this year, and we're kind of leaning into the present and the future.
Bob. Let's go back to the Austin Convention Center for a moment, please. Q said you having these high-level coaches meetings next to the bouncy machine.
Sure.
Could you fill us in on that, please?
We had to be very creative with our meeting spaces. So I think there were various times as the convention center was changing over, from exhibitions to carnivals to Austin Toros G League, D League games back then, and wherever the seats were, we could huddle up, in a small group, and we could get a projector screen up. That's where we could get our scout reports done and our presentations or our coaches meetings in preparation for practice. So very fond memories. I think at one season we had like 5, 6, 7 different practice locations, and sometimes we didn't know we were practicing until the morning of, and we were literally already on the highway where we turn right or we turn left, and whoever could take us, we were prepared to adapt on the fly. But it allowed us just to kind of pour into the work, not worrying about the bells and whistles, that surround this beautiful game. It was more about really diving into like what we wanted to teach these guys, from a player development standpoint, a strategy standpoint, and I love that because it gave me great humility for the profession I'm in.
Anything else? Thanks, Coach.
Great.